In my 20s, I made a decision, and after I committed to it, all the doubts came rolling in. I was working in sales at the time, and I decided to move to Atlanta from Memphis, where I was living, to take over a sales territory there. I didn't have a community waiting for me. I knew exactly two people there, and I was taking what felt like a really big risk. But something in me said it was time for a change. I saw the potential of living in a brand new city. The company that I worked for said yes. And before I knew it, I was committed to moving almost 7 hours away. I told people, I made it real, and then I was flying through the air. I don't know about you, but I have found that sometimes the only way to make a big, courageous move is to launch myself before fear gets a vote. I call it the slingshot. When you slingshot yourself, you pull back, you take aim at something that feels true for you, and you let go before you can overthink it. And then you're already moving, and you have to trust yourself to figure out the landing. Atlanta worked out, but honestly, even if it hadn't, I still would have learned a lot of important things about myself. The point isn't that things turned out with that move. The point is that I trusted what I knew deep down enough to act before doubt talked me out of it. And that's what today is all about. Not the absence of fear, but living what you know anyway. Hey, it's Kelly G, your Radiance coach. Welcome to the Embodied Radiance podcast, episode number 11. People often tell me they don't know what to do. But when we start talking, they actually do know. They know the conversation they need to have. They know the boundary that needs to be set. They know the decision that needs to be made. They know the dream that is waiting within them. They just don't yet trust themselves enough to live into it. The knowing isn't usually the problem. Living it is. Because living what you know almost always costs you something. And that's exactly where courage begins. I love how Drew Dudley defines courage. He says courage is a commitment to taking action when there is a possibility of loss. This view of courage makes it really tangible. It makes it real. It explains immediately why courage feels so uncomfortable. And of course it does. Every courageous decision asks us to risk losing something. We risk losing approval, certainty, comfort, control. It may be an identity we've been living into, a relationship, a version of yourself that other people have come to expect. When we can name what we're actually afraid of losing, our fear starts making sense. And that's very different from believing that our fear means we should stop. But here's what courage also invites us to look at: the cost of not moving. Maybe staying where you are protects you from criticism, but it also costs you authenticity. Maybe staying protects you from disappointing someone else, but it also means disappointing yourself. Maybe staying feels safe right now, but over time, it quietly drains your energy, your creativity, your self-trust, and your joy. There are really two questions worth asking here. The first is, what might I lose if I do this? What's at risk? And the second, and this one is really important to ask, is what is it costing me to stay here? Sometimes the greatest risk isn't in changing, it's in remaining the same. Every courageous choice you make becomes evidence. Evidence that you can survive uncertainty. Evidence that you can disappoint someone else and still be okay. Evidence that your worth isn't dependent on everyone else's approval. Evidence that you can do hard things. We don't build self-trust by thinking about courageous action. We build it by taking action, one choice at a time. And that's why I see courage as self-trust in motion. In yoga philosophy, there's a quality called abhaya, often translated as fearlessness, but not the fearlessness of someone who feels nothing. It's the fearlessness of someone who is rooted in something deeper than their fear. They're rooted in their values, their truth, their inner knowing. Abhaya isn't the absence of fear. It's what happens when something matters more than the fear. And that's what we're building here, not fearlessness, but rootedness. Okay, so let's circle back to the slingshot for a moment. I think it's worth naming as a strategy. The slingshot is what happens when you commit before the doubt can fully arrive. You aim at something that feels true for you, you pull back, and you release before doubt gets a vote. And then you're already in the air. And you must trust yourself to figure out the rest. It doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes you are terrified the entire way after you've said yes, believe me. But you're moving. And movement, even imperfect, scared, uncertain movement, builds the evidence your nervous system needs to trust you. Atlanta was a slingshot for me, just as many of the biggest and most important decisions of my life have been. And they weren't reckless. They were all rooted in deeper knowing. There's a difference. The slingshot works because you have tuned in to the knowing within you. You are acting on something deeper than the fear of risk. And you're trusting yourself as you let courage handle the rest. Courage is something we can practice, like building a muscle. And muscles are built through doing the reps. Instead of simply reflecting on courage, I invite you to rehearse it here for the next few moments. So bring to mind something you've been knowing, but not living. Just something that's been quietly asking for your attention. It could be something like a habit that you know you want to change, but the risk of discomfort has stopped you. Now, I want to introduce you to a gesture from yoga, abhaya mudra. A mudra is a hand gesture. To do this mudra, all you'll need to do is bend your right elbow and raise your right hand so that it's up near your right shoulder with your palm facing forward and your fingers extended but relaxed. Your left hand can rest palm up in your lap, or if you're standing, it can just hang by your side. This gesture has been used for thousands of years as a reminder to tap into the courage within. It's like you're taking an oath to yourself to trust your inner knowing and to take action even when it feels risky. You are rooted, you are okay, you can do this. So go ahead and come into abhaya mudra and hold that right palm facing forward. Feel what it means to offer this to yourself. Feel the stable base beneath you and take one slow breath. And now, out loud or in a whisper, if that feels better, I invite you to say, I am going to, and fill in the blank. Complete that sentence with the thing you've been knowing, but not doing. With this mudra, you're making the commitment to yourself to step out in courage. So maybe say it again, a little stronger this time. I am going to, and notice what happens in your body when you say it out loud. That activation you feel, that mix of fear and aliveness, that's courage. That's what it actually feels like. It's not always calm. It's not always certain, but it is fully alive. So that's your rehearsal. And every time you rehearse it, you're building the muscle. You're becoming someone who acts on what she knows. Rehearse it as many times as you need. Courage isn't proof that you're fearless. It's proof that something matters more than your fear, and you are willing to take the risk for yourself. The slingshot works because you've already tapped in to your inner knowing. And now courage is what carries you into the living it. Not perfectly, not without fear, just forward. Next time, we're going to talk about what happens when you take that courageous step and someone else doesn't like it. Because disapproval tolerance, the ability to stay anchored in yourself when approval isn't guaranteed, that's its own practice. And it's one worth building. Until then, trust what you know, and then let courage carry you. Raise your right hand, commit to yourself, and let your life shine.